Welcome back to another episode of What Should I Get Pierced? My name is Scott Wilkinson. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. Now on the show, we're taking a look at 6 people's faces and their ears, and I'm telling you what would be good possibilities for piercings for them, and ultimately what I think would look best. Now, let's get started. Up first, we have Natasha. Now, immediately when we look at Natasha's face, we are drawn to her eyes. So that tells me we should do some sort of piercing around that area. I could see an eyebrow piercing. As you can see, an eyebrow piercing up here would look just amazing. I could also see a horizontal eyebrow piercing. As you can see, that works just as good. Now, there's also the possibility of a good bridge piercing. Of course, it's very anatomy dependent, but a bridge piercing would look amazing. Now also, I would go right to the septum. The nose is nice and straight, and a nice tight ring in the septum would be really, really cute. And as we go a little lower, of course, we have a vertical labret. I can absolutely see a vertical labret piercing. Lots of different fun options here. As far as going outside the box here, maybe dahlia piercings, in the corners of the mouth right in here. And last option I would say is maybe a dermal anchor up on the cheek area, right up in that area. Now, as far as my ultimate picks, I would have to go with a bridge piercing and a vertical labret. All right, let's take a look at her ear. Now, looking at her ear, looks like we have 3 earlobe piercings. I'm not sure what's going on with that third earlobe piercing. Maybe it's kind of a longer barbell hanging down, which could be at a different angle, but as long as you shorten it up, you can kind of hide that effect if it is off a little tiny bit. Now, as far as new piercings, oh boy, where do we start? I would want to start with a doff piercing. I can see how prominent this is, and a nice ring right inside the doff, I think would be fabulous. Now also, the flat area is talking to me, so this whole area right up in here would work really, really well. As you can see, maybe a single piercing up here, possibly even the double or triple going down the ear like so. Now another fun option here would be a helix piercing, and as you can see, we can fit 1, 2, possibly 3 helixes before it starts getting too tight in this area, so 3 helix piercings would work really well. Now looking from this angle, it looks like she has a perfect snug to pierce. Now I love doing snug piercings. As you can see, it'd be from there to there. That ridge is really dense, so they're kind of painful, but sometimes that's the price you pay for beauty. Now as far as other piercings, you could also replicate that snug by just doing a single conch, where it'd just be the single bead in the front. We could do a tragus piercing. As you can see, it's not real strong right here, but there's still enough to get a gem right in the front up there. Now, as far as my ultimate picks, I would have to go with a snug and the doff. And up next, we have Jessie. Now, when we look at Jessie's face, we see a single piercing inner nostril with a ring placed perfectly. It looks amazing. Now, also right below that, you can see a natural mole where the Monroe piercing normally would go. As you can see, that's what we're trying to replicate, and she has it naturally. I love it. Now, as far as the nostril piercing and the natural mole there, I would want to balance things out. I could possibly see an eyebrow piercing. As you can see, an eyebrow piercing kind of right up in the corner up there. Absolutely stunning, which also brings attention to her beautiful eyes. Now, we could also do a lip piercing. As you can see, a single lip piercing down on the bottom would balance things out. And if you wanted a little bit more, maybe we could do some spider bites. As you see, a double piercing on the side accents it just as perfectly. Now, sometimes simplicity is best. If you want to add something a little bit more extreme where you can change things up, maybe we could do a septum piercing. And once it heals, a nice tight snug ring on there, or you could do an elaborate clicker. Now, as far as my ultimate picks, I would have to go with the spider bites and a septum. Taking a look at Jessie's ear, you can see that there is a stretched piercing in the lobe. I love this. If I had to guess, which I like to always do, maybe a 0 gauge. Now, as far as new decorations, I could see an upper orbital. Starting off with a crazy one right away. As you can see, if we did a piercing here, the ring would come out on the bottom, and of course, finishing up on the top, maybe having a bead up like so. Super, super fun look. A really rough heel, but it's an awesome piercing. Now, as far as other piercings go, I could see maybe a forward helix. You can see one clearly would work well there, and maybe a second one down below. As you can see, this area, the rook touches the forward helix, probably a little too tight to fit jewelry in there, but two of them on the side would work really nicely. I could also see a tragus piercing. Single tragus piercing there. You could do a gem, forward facing. I love that look. So classic. Now, as far as conch piercing, I could totally see a conch piercing set up like so, and that would leave plenty of room for a nice ring to go around if you wanted to wear the ring through the conch, of course, when it's healed up. Maybe more earlobe piercing. Looks like there might be some earlobe piercings here. You could always maybe stretch those up a little bigger if those do exist, or possibly getting some just new piercings to add to it. Earlobe piercings are still valid piercings. I love earlobes. As far as other piercings go, rook. I can see the rook looks fairly thin, using a nice curved barbell right in there. And last option here I would throw in would be a flat piercing. Just a single flat piercing right in the middle there. Leave a nice big ornate gem or something nice and simple. Now, as far as my ultimate picks, I'm going to go with a tragus and a rook. And continuing on, we have Lily. Now, Lily already has 3 piercings. As you can see, we have a septum, a nostril, and a lip piercing. Now, as far as adding to what we already have, which looks fantastic, by the way, maybe doing a double nostril. Now, double nostril means we could add one more to the front of this or behind, wherever it would fit. And same thing with the lip. You could add another one on the inside to have the spider bites, or even possibly on the outside, depending on what kind of look you were going for. Now, if you want to double up on the other way, as far as like doing a lip piercing on the outskirts, so you kind of have the snake bites, and we could also do a second nostril piercing, so the double nostril and double rings. It's all balanced this way. That's one of the looks I really, really enjoy. Now, as far as new piercings, you could totally see a Medusa here. A Medusa or a Philtrum right in the middle of that center lip. Maybe if you did the other lip piercing on the side, we could also do a single labret piercing there, so you have the 3 going across on the bottom. Used to be kind of a lot more popular look. We don't see that as much, and things come and go, so that might be something you might see some more of. Now, as far as eyebrow piercings, you can see there's that little curvature up here, which means a horizontal eyebrow piercing. Fits perfectly. And last option I would say here would be a dermal anchor. Now, kind of, if we did everything to balance things out, I would say maybe a dermal anchor over on her right side, just in the lower eye area. And my final picks are balancing things out. We're going to say the right nostril, the left lip, and to add one more, the Medusa. Let's take a look at Lily's ear. Now, Lily doesn't have any piercings. Maybe an earlobe piercing here at the bottom, but otherwise, I think some helix piercings would be a good start. Granted, they're a little longer healing process, but as you can see, there's room all the way down, even continuing to the earlobe, to the original earlobe piercing. Moving all the way up the ear like that. Classic look. Takes a long time to heal, but just awesome. Now, as far as other piercings go, the tragus is speaking to me. You can see how the tragus just protrudes out and would wear a stud beautifully, and also a rook piercing. You can see how it's nice and prominent, and having a curved barbell right in there, the rook would be super, super nice. Now, as far as other piercings go, we could definitely do a conch piercing. We could also do a flat piercing. Flat piercing right in the middle of the ear. Super fun piercing, lots of jewelry options. And my final picks for this one are a flat, a helix right in the middle, and an earlobe piercing. And up next from Costa Rica, we have Adrian. Now, Adrian did mention he's getting his nipples pierced, so congratulations on getting your nipples pierced. Now, let's decorate your face. Now looking at your face, immediately I'm drawn to your nose, so we need to do a septum piercing. I can definitely see a septum piercing with a circular barbell, maybe a clicker, but it would look great with that facial hair. Now the second thing I would say would be a possible bridge. Now as long as anatomy is proper, you could do a bridge piercing here. I mean, just look at that, how epic is that? We could also do some eyebrow piercings. I see the symmetry here, so eyebrow piercings on both sides if we were to do so. As you can see, that looks like it's meant to be. And the last thing I'm going to mention here would possibly be an Ashley piercing. Not a labret, but just a lower Ashley piercing right in the middle of the bottom of the lip. Gives us a lot of options here. Now, as far as my favorite piercings, the septum and a bridge. All right, now let's take a look at Adrian's ear. Now, already stretched out, looks like there's some sort of a flesh tunnel in there, maybe around a 2 or a 0 gauge would be my guess. As far as adding new stuff, the curves of his ear are amazing for a lot of piercings. The first thing I see is the anti-helix. Now you can see it's very prominent and comes all the way down around there. Now, what I would want to do here would be multiple anti-helix, even starting really high up, possibly doing even 4 piercings down the side. Most of the time you only see a max of 3, but it looks like there's enough room for the 4 here. Now also, that leaves the snug, which is part of the anti-helix. You can see how a snug piercing right in there would fit really, really well. And the rook. The rook is very prominent. As you can see, curved barbell right inside there. As far as other piercings go, I could see a conch piercing. I could see an anti-tragus, using a little curve or possible straight barbell going through there. And even some more earlobe piercings. 1, possibly 2 more going up the ear. Now, what I would like to see on his ear would be those anti-helix piercings. Now, before we move on to Mariah, if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you're subscribed. It really helps us out. Now, Mariah already has several piercings, and I love her look because everything's symmetrical. Looks like it's very well done. She's just wondering what to add. Now, as we see the vertical labret, I like that. It's a little bit shallow, but it still looks really, really good. Now, if we were to add any more lip piercings, I could possibly see 2 other labrets, vertical labrets, a little higher up and a little deeper on each side, which would give a really unique look. I kind of like this. Now, as far as other options go, I would want to say high nostrils. With the trifecta, the double nostril and the septum, adding the high nostrils up here with some gems. I think that's all she would really need. There's always the possibility of doing eyebrow piercings, possibly inner eyebrow piercings, as you can see, like all the way in, like something like so. Maybe even middle eyebrow piercings. Or outer eyebrow piercing. All would look really nice. And for my final picks, I would love to do those vertical labrets as well as the high nostrils. And moving on to Mariah's ear. Now we can see that there is some stretching going on here. Now, first thing I want to say is this is a taper, and tapers are generally tools. They're not meant to be worn as jewelry. Using it as jewelry like this encourages people to stretch too fast and ripping and tearing happens. So I generally don't like to see this, but I like where you're going with it. I like the stretched ear. Now, as far as other piercings go, I'm going to say I would love to see an orbital at the top of your ear. As you can see, like the ring, like a little ring up here and coming across the top, that would be really, really fun. The other option would be a horizontal, like perpendicular, so the ring kind of comes out here and technically comes out on the back. You really wouldn't see it from the front, but you just see the line of the ring on the front. Really, really fun look. Now, as far as other piercings, tragus piercing all the way. The little nub wants to be pierced. I could also see a doth piercing, ring in the doth. Conch piercing, maybe even a double. I could see a double in there with the 2 rings healed going around the ear, like the double cuff. Really, really epic look. anti-helix. You can see how this white tissue right here means everything kind of sticks out. So we could do the 1, 2, or possible 3 piercings. Definitely do a rook piercing, plenty of room there. And as far as forward helixes, maybe 1 up here, 1 here, but again, a little too tight here, not enough room to fit that 3rd one in the middle. Now my favorite piercings for this year would be a double helix, a doff, and that tragus. And the last person I have the honor of decorating today is Grace from British Columbia, Canada. Now Grace already has the trifecta, the nostril, septum, nostril. What would we add to this? I could see some angel bites. Placement is so important on angel bites. I think the placement around there, yeah, that looks really, really nice. Now, as far as other options, maybe a jestrum. I could see a jestrum, you know, with a little curved barbell through the upper lip. I could also see eyebrow piercings. As a matter of fact, she has very beautiful eyes, and doing eyebrow piercings like this will bring the attention up there and will look really, really amazing. Now, what I would love to see, what I'd love to pierce, I think I would have to go with eyebrow piercings, 1 on each side. Let's take a look at Grace's ear. All right, so I'm seeing 4 piercings off the bat. Now this is a really great example to kind of point out how helix piercings can be done at different angles. It all depends on what you're looking for. As you can see here, we have one that's going to be like perpendicular sideways through, and we also have one straight through that direction. So really fun look. Now, if I were to do some more things like this, I might want to add another forward helix, which would be over in this area. And when it healed up, we could wear another ring to kind of balance it out with that. And then another fun thing would be is to do a tragus piercing, which would match this angle of this ring once it's healed up as well. So kind of a bunch of different angles, but at the same time, that might be fun having the tragus, forward helix, and kind of goes all the way around the ear. Another great option right in the center of the ear, centerpiece would be a nice conch piercing. Maybe put a nice little cluster in there. And looks like there might have been another earlobe piercing. Looks a little bit in. I would say add another one out here, and maybe even stretching these ears to a slightly larger size and kind of working our way down. Maybe like a 8, a 12, and a 16 gauge. Now, as far as my ultimate picks here, I want to go with the other forward helix and the tragus. Well, that pretty much winds it up for today. Now, if you enjoy watching content like this, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you hit the like button, and of course, keep putting holes in your body. We'll see you all in the next video.